Hi, I'm Dustin Perry. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Kingfisher Metals. Kingfisher explores in British Columbia for high-grade gold and copper, and we recently made a pretty significant grassroots discovery at our Goldrange project.
Dustin, nice to meet you. Thank you for the introduction.
Oh, yeah, nice to be here.
Now, you caught up with Matt in December when you were over for Mines and Money, and since then you've published some more drill holes. And I'm a geologist, and I'm quite interested to understand a little bit more about your project and how that's, how the results are coming in and what you're looking forward to for next year. So I just wanted to begin with, could you kind of give me an update of how far you've got through into that discovery process? And I think you've got, is it 7 of the holes back, and you've got another 7 to go, or is it more than that?
So 7 have been released. The remainder will be released very, very shortly here. We've just started getting the remainder of those back and just doing QA/QC and drafting a release and whatnot. So they will come. But so far we've had some pretty darn encouraging results for a first pass program. I think one key thing here is that nobody had ever drilled on this large, almost 500 square kilometer property before. First time being drilled. So, for the initial results, I'm very pleased and look forward to getting after it again this year and actually going back and drilling some tighter holes around these high grade hits.
Now, so forgive me, I've just kind of jumped straight in onto this one project, but could you pull up your kind of, could you show me a map of, because you've got 3 main project areas, haven't you?
Yes.
If you could pull up a map just to kind of, so that I can locate myself and understand better where you were applying your energies last year and your hard-won dollars.
Absolutely. Okay. So yes, we're in BC. You can see that?
Yep. So
we're in BC, 3 projects: Thibert, Ecstall, Goldrange. Ecstall is actually how I started the company. I put that together myself back in 2018. Ecstall is a polymetallic project. It's a VMS belt. It's well recognized by the BC Geological Survey. As some of your viewers might know, or if not, VMS deposits often occur in clusters. And when you get one, you often get more of them, which gives long mine lives to districts. Companies like Hudbay and Falconbridge really started with these types of systems because they just kept on growing.
And Agnico, I mean, SK Creek's a VMS, isn't it?
SK Creek is a VMS, and SK Mining are in that area. They're starting to find more of them. It's a little different. It's a gold silver rich one. We're looking at a different age of VMS mineralization at Ecstall. The best comparable would be Arctic that Trilogy Metals and South 32 are exploring. But our focus has really been gold at our Goldrange project, where we spent over 90% of our exploration dollars last summer. And then we also did a little bit of work at Thibert. It is our 3rd project, so we can't allocate too much capital or time to it, but we did do some solid work there in the background that I'd be happy to get into. But Goldrange really should be the focus of our talk. That is the driver for this company right now, is the real excitement.
And how much of your budget did you put into Goldrange last year? Was it 80, 90%, 95%?
Around 95%.
And but you've flown a VTEM survey at Ecstall, haven't you? Or yes. was that you? Was that you? I mean, you did the VTEM survey, and that was heliborne, or was it a drone survey? Or?
Yeah. So I put the project together in 2018, and I convinced my dad, who's a physician, actually nothing to do with exploration. I convinced him to come out there with me. We self-funded it, flew out there, did some reconnaissance work by ourselves, got some great weather. Not really. And then back in 2019, we did our first raise as a private company and went out there and flew a property-wide VTEM survey. Nothing like that had ever been done. Previous geophysical work was done in the 80s, and none of the airborne work ever resolved anything. Fair bit of groundwork. But one other big component that we did there, we went around and acquired all this unpublished data because Falconbridge and Noranda had a joint venture there in the 1980s. So there's a lot of good quality data that was never published. I think we have over 1,200 stream sediment samples. And we had a team in the Philippines digitizing this for us at a really low cost. So we built a really good database together. We've got a ton of targets there, over 40 VMS targets. We're just at a capacity issue here with Goldrange. We can't focus to the extent I'd like to on both. So we are looking at options for monetizing the Ecstall project.
What made you pick up Goldrange? Because you're obviously motivated to do the VTEM survey. You funded it privately. Obviously, taking your dad out there. You obviously believe in the area, and you've got these 40 anomalies. What was the trigger to pick up Goldrange? Was it because Goldrange looked too exciting, or because Ecstall didn't look exciting enough?
Ecstall was definitely exciting. The first summer we went out there, we didn't have a lot of time after we got the VTEM results. We only had a week or so before the field season was over, and we went out there and found a brand new VMS outcropping with a conductor that goes to 800 meters depth associated with it, a big alteration footprint, over 3% copper, 2 grams gold, 7% zinc, 50 grams silver. So, it looks great. There's nothing wrong with that. What happened though was the pandemic hit and copper tanked, and we imagined that gold would go up quickly, and we were able to pick up a couple gold projects before gold took off. And when I saw the Goldrange project, there was one map of a geochemical anomaly that had no drill holes into it and no real understanding, no good geological rationale for why it was there. It looked like a problem we could solve, and it looked like one hell of an opportunity, too good to pass up. So that's why we picked up Goldrange.
And Ecstall's on the coast, presumably got easier. Has it got easier access? I mean,
Goldrange might actually be easier access from. They're both pretty well situated in terms of that. You can drive to our project. There's a ranch at the north end of the project. You can see roads from some of our zones. Ecstall is a little bit further. You have to either take a boat to access it or fly. But if it were to become a mine, it's incredibly well situated right on the shipping lane to Asia, with a hydroelectric facility at one end and deep water and a shipping lane on the other end. So, it's back end loaded. It's got a great location, but it still is a little, it's helicopter work.
Well, I'm a great fan of VMSs. We're working on one in Ecuador, which is high grade. It's open pittable. I'm a huge fan of them. But anyway, let's
they're a ton of fun as a geologist to explore.
But they're also goodie boxes. They're goodie boxes. They're rich, and they can make companies. I mean, you look at the companies they've got started on a VMS, and whether it's Agnico Eagle or Rio Tinto or Lundin Mining, they've all got started on a VMS because it gives that real kick. But equally, gold companies have got started on gold projects as well. So, Goldrange.
Before we go into that, I'll just address that the focus for this company was to explore for high grade styles of deposits, which is why we're going after what we are. BC is where we know. All of our experiences primarily is in British Columbia, and we felt that VMS deposits and orogenic gold were the two best things to look for here to address that high grade component.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, a VMS, those grades that you're talking about were probably kind of, even though it was just a outcrop sample, it was probably 5% copper equivalent at surface, which is 10 times higher than the average grade of copper being mined today.
And that was stringer mineralization. That wasn't even getting into a massive sulfide lens. So, it goes up.
It goes up.
Yeah.
Don't forget about those VMSs at Ecstall. There's value there.
And no royalty either. We have no royalty on that project. Royalty free.
Well, keep it that way.
Kilometers, 49 kilometers long, royalty free. So
keep it that way. Don't be sucked into to royalty streams, but that's royalty financing, but that's just my personal opinion. The majors hate it. So, Goldrange. I looked at one of your maps, and you've got this kind of big structure coming across. It's called, what was it? The
Yalacum Fault.
The Yalacum Fault, that big structure coming across. And I just wondered, you've got the Caribou to the southeast, the Talisker discovery.
Bring it up here.
I just wondered what you got. Bralorne. Is that the Talisker thing?
No, that's so Braylorne is an old mine that produced 4.2 million ounces at 17.7 grams. So I believe that's about double what Brucejack is. So incredible grades, long mine life, pretty prolific camp. Endurance Gold just announced another, I guess it's a discovery. There was historic adits there as well at the Reliance project. And then I believe Tempest, an Aussie company, is exploring at Elizabeth. Lots of gold showings in this area. It's a highly active area. You can drive through from Pemberton to Lillooet on a highway here, and you can just see the amount of veining on the side of the highway, whether it has gold or not. It's just a really intense area of deformation, which is where you want to be for finding these orogenic gold systems. And it's a pretty prolific fault, the Ellicum fault, crustal scale fault. So that's exactly what you want to be on, something that's tapping deep fluids. But what you see here in this belt is that you don't necessarily want to be right on that main fault. You want to be on the faults just to the side of it. And where we are is a really similar structural setting to Braylon and Reliance. And another thing I'll note is you can see on this map a little bit of a bend in these faults where the Braylon camp is, and same with Goldrange. And we get that. It's a major inflection point, basically, where you get a bit of a change in geometry in the Goldrange area and as well in the Bridge River camp area. And, all the intrusive bodies line up with that. It's pretty apparent. And we think it's focusing mineralization in that area as it does at Braylon.
A bit of strain partitioning and kind of dilational opening up and kind of space for fluid flow. Interesting. And did you choose the Goldrange blocks because of kind of data, or was it availability of ground, or combination of the two?
So Goldrange, I'd looked at it actually a long time ago, back in 2012, with a good friend and one of our advisors, Francis McDonald from Kennerland. We'd both looked at it at that point in our career. We didn't really know what to do, and we didn't know how to monetize it, so we didn't stake it. And then one of his geologists at Kennerland staked this anomaly. He was looking through that area, staked it. They pitched it to us at probably 2 a.m. at the Loose Moose in Toronto during PDAC in 2020. Saw it was a no-brainer. We said, okay, yeah, we want this. We did a deal. We went out and did about 5 other deals with prospectors. So I liked it. It was, we could get a deal done. It wasn't dealing with a bunch of different companies, just one, and then a few prospectors, and then a lot of staking. And we've continued to expand on staking more ground for various reasons. One, just tie up the ground where you can. It's always cheapest to stake it without a royalty. Also, we're seeing a lot more potential based on regional work we did this past summer.
You picked up a whole bunch of leases to the north of your gold project. I saw one tiny little blob down in the southwest, but the vast majority is to the north. And is that a combination of ease of access plus decent geological indications?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of geochemical similarities in the government stream sediment samples in those areas to our best intercepts. So high bismuth, tellurium, antimony, arsenic, and gold. So, we're seeing the same metal signature as we get in our best grades. So it doesn't cost a lot to stake it. It makes sense to get it. It also prevents anybody else from getting in there and potentially ticking off the locals who we have a good relationship with. So it's best just to, accumulate a bigger position. It's also road accessible at the north end. There's active logging. So it's got a lot of things going for it, and it cost about $20,000 to put together that recent stake.
And who's the photographer in your team? Because you've got some great photographs in your.
We do, yeah. Prior to this year, it was me for everything, and then we brought in a local a ski photographer actually from I live right near Whistler, BC, so brought in a local who actually used to prospect and grew up in a prospecting family. Had him out there for a few days to take a lot of photos, just to try to get people on the ground that can't be on the ground, so show them what it's like. You picked some good weather as well, because almost all the photographs in your presentation materials are kind of like the one behind you at the moment, your background. It's kind of it's clear, like clear days. 2 days there, 0 standby heli time. So rarely had bad weather on this project. It's quite different than working in northern BC, where you get snowstorms in the middle of the summer. It's great weather, hot. You need to wear a lot of sunscreen. Wow. And I noticed you quite a lot of the images you guys are wearing kind of hard hats with peaks.
is that do you have to do rope work? I mean, are the gradients steep? Are you doing kind of scrambling and kind of is that for safety on using harnesses, or is it just for occasional, just protection against occasional loose material coming off the faces?
Yeah, exactly that. Just being careful for rockfall. Pretty simple safety precaution. We have done a very limited amount of rope work back when we were a private company, and we haven't done any since. A good example, it's steep terrain, but if you're competent, you can get around. Our VPX scale, she was out there 5 months pregnant mapping the area we drilled. So you can take that for what it is.
Yeah, she's a nutter. No, no,
she's an amazing rock climber, actually.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, good. And the project, I'm just getting a feel for. So it's good weather. You've got a field season of 5 or 6 months, and then the snows come in. And I noticed that you've got one of your projects, one of your prospect areas is called Day Trip, and is that because it takes a day to walk there?
So I really like that zone. It was back in 2020. Our crew was at Ecstall, and I was kind of going stir crazy in the summer heat, sitting right here at my desk on Zoom. So I went up there for a couple of days with with Dave Loretto, one of the co-founders, and then another local friend to help with taking some soil samples. And I went to an area that I saw on Google Earth that looked interesting. There's a gossan there. You get a lot of gossans in these areas because an intrusion will come in and will bake the sediments around it, creating a pyritic halo. And saw that on Google Earth. So we camped near there. I walked there in one day, and just walking over that ridge, we found an area 70 by 90 meters in extent where 20 to 25% of the material was sulfide breccia, similar to what we hit in drilling this year. That graded anywhere from 3 to 20 grams per ton, incredibly oxidized and leached out. We did a soil survey over that area in that one day. I was walking over it and I saw it and I got all excited. I went sprinting back to find them and I said, just a heads up, I'm going to lay out a grid for you guys. That rarely happens where you're doing a reconnaissance soil line and the same day you turn it into a grid.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting about that is that there's no vegetation. Is it?
No, I'm going to bring it up right now just to show you.
There's no, and is that a altitude or weather thing, or is that just because is that a kind of a metalliferous?
I think it's just an elevation thing. Yeah, we're above tree line here. You can see this is the area I walked across, and there's a lot of really nice material in there, and it lights up with the talus fine geochem. So talus fines are just the really fine broken up rock, similar to soil, grading up to 8.4 grams per ton. But then what's also interesting is, so it's right on a major fault here we have modeled, and then adjacent to it, you have an intrusion coming in that's absolutely loaded with quartz veins up to 2 meters, grading over 6 grams per ton. So really compelling. Is
that the ridge behind? Is that the kind of the spur in between the intrusion?
That is right here. So the ridge behind would be off of the eyepiece.
Okay, yeah.
But the area that was highlighted on that previous map corresponds with this outline here.
Yeah.
And what I really like is we did an IP geophysical survey last year, which measures the electrical properties of the rock, and a sulfide body would have a strong electrical response. And it lit up like a Christmas tree right underneath it. So these 3 profiles on the left correspond with where these lines intersect this circle on the right. And the area of the sulfide breccia outcrop would correspond right with this anomaly right here, which is coming to surface. And the depth of this survey is 100 meters, which is about the depth of the track-mounted rab drill we're going to use to tackle this starting around May 15th. And if I jump back to the other one, you can see here, it's pretty easy to move a track-mounted drill around this. Doesn't need water, so you get it up there early season. This area is snow-free early because it's really windswept.
Right.
There's no way to hide on it.
And what altitude is that?
I believe that's 2,200 meters.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's quite high actually, but we were there in October of 2020, and it was 23, 24 degrees in October up there. So, you could have an extended season there because there's not a lot of snowfall in the area. but it's easy to move around in that particular target, which will make it great for the track mounted drill rig. And my goal is hopefully there's something there, and we can announce something in time for PDAC.
Which is this year is in June.
June,
isn't it? Yeah. So apart from the intrusion and the kind of sulfide breccia at day trip zone, have you done any mapping around it? Have you got a handle on kind of what you're looking at there? Or is it just you're going to start? How are you going to take it on apart from the drilling? Where does it fit in with the context of what you're beginning to understand about the rest of the geology in the region?
So we're seeing a very similar trend at all these systems, which is pretty similar to Braylorn. You get the Bendor Plutonic Suite, which is a series of Cretaceous aged intrusives that you get across the Yalakum Fault network. You get them in Braylorn, and I think they're dated at around 67 million years there. Here we have one across the valley from where we drilled this year that was dated by the Geological Survey of Canada at 68 million years. So we've got same age intrusions, and they came in during a period of orogeny, so mountains mountains forming, plates colliding, and once they came in, or it might have been some overlap, there was a large dextral strike slip faulting event, which is syn mineral. Mineralization occurred during that event, and we're seeing the same fault patterns at all of the zones across this project area, where you get offset intrusions, you get Hornfels, Orioles around these intrusions, and these intrusions, when they're getting faulted, they're really brittle, and they make a really good spot to put veining. But then you also get mineralization outside of them in the adjacent rock that's also been baked and prepped for mineralization.
Outside of the intrusion, you mentioned Hornfels, but what were those? What's the kind of the country rock? What's the host rock outside of the Hornfels, outside of the intrusion?
It's the Cloud Drifter Formation, which is where the name came from. It's a sedimentary rock, sandstone, siltstones, pretty boring, pretty monotonous. Them on their own, they're not exciting. You don't get a ton of bedding in them. Yeah. But when they get baked and when they've got these faults going through them, and the contacts with the intrusions are excellent locations for mineralization. And you do get breccias within the intrusive, but also within the seds. And they tend to have a higher arsenopyrite content when you're in the sedimentary rocks, because there was likely more arsenic in those rocks to begin with. Is
there any, you say sandstones and quartz and siltstones, which could potentially have some porosity and permeability kind of characteristics? Do you see any kind of disseminations in there, or was it all in fractures?
Yeah, we see some disseminations. We also see some like fold hinge replacement, basically. At our standard zone, which we're going to finally drill this year, early season, that's the site where we used one of these backpack man portable drills back in 2020 and drilled 10.84 grams per ton over 6.9 meters from surface above a historic adit. That's an area where you get a fold hinge that has what appear kind of like saddle reefs. You get flat veins across a fold hinge, but then right in the nose of the fold, you get sulfide replacement, really high in sulfide content. And it's going to be interesting to test that along strike to see if that mineralization continues. Excellent grades. So that's an example of what we see outside of the intrusions.
Just going back to the sediments, how old are they, and are they kind of compacted and metamorphosed? And I know there's not much you can do to a sandstone or a siltstone, but are they old and dense, or?
No, they're not particularly old. They're Cretaceous as well, so they're a few million years. They formed during there was a major mountain building event here, a fold and thrust belt. As the mountains are being taken up, you're getting erosion coming off of there. That got compacted over a few million years, and then the intrusions came in. There's also volcanic rocks within that sedimentary package as well. And you actually get mineralization through all of these different host rocks.
Really interesting. What do you use as your main vectors for mineralization? Is it mapping? Is it remote sensing or aerial photographs? Are you using the geochemistry? where have you got to on the kind of the structural grid? Well, probably a combination of all of the above, but.
So geochemistry, soil geochemistry has been the main vector here from the outset. That was the vector towards acquiring the project. And we've used it pretty successfully on other targets across the project in terms of locating areas of mineralization and then follow in and map them. So it gets you in the right area. I wouldn't say that you're in steep terrain, so there's some movement. I don't think there's a lot because we find mineralization underneath these soil anomalies almost every time. But there's some, so it's not a direct, I wouldn't put a drill hole based on one soil sample, but it gets you in the vicinity. We've done some IP geophysics, which it's basically the same thing. It's not a drill targeting tool, but it highlights the system. At day trip, it seems a lot more direct. And I'm not sure why that is. It's incredibly intense, though, the signal at day trip.
You've got metal sticking out of surface.
Exactly. In other areas, there's more cover, so it's hard to. It's not a perfect targeting tool. You use everything together, and then you use magnetics. We've got strong magnetic signatures here.
If you've got the government data, or you haven't flown your own surveys?
So we flew a 50-meter airborne magnetics and radiometric survey over the cloud drifter, and it didn't get as far as day trip. It was a smaller survey area. Did that in 2020, and that helped with our mapping. We were able to extrapolate and infer some of the intrusive units, which often appear as magnetic lows.
Yes. Mag destruction or just
that hasn't been resolved yet.
Yeah,
there's somebody working on that right now, actually.
Okay. Have you got to the point where you've kind of ranked your targets? So right at the start of the talk, you've ranked Goldrange above the others, and have you within the Goldrange project kind of established your set of targets? And if you have, can you kind of just talk about kind of the ranking where you've got to mentally? And I know that things will change, and I know that you might get a blinder of a result where you're not expecting it, so that next year you might have a different ranking. But from what you know today, have you got the ranking kind of mentally sorted in your head?
Yes. So, well, sort of. Obviously, we need to go follow up on the great results we had within the cloud drifter zone, which is the western part of the cloud drifter trend. So those are all high-ranking targets. They're all going to be drilled with very close step-outs around the high-grade intersections we had. But there's also a lot of other targets within that portion of the project within the cloud drifter zone that we just couldn't get to last year. We had quite a few limitations. We were kind of handicapped by pad building. They came and they went. We didn't have them there with any consistency. We've sorted that out in advance.
Helipad building.
Yeah. Which is like a good example is the final drill pad of the year we built ourselves. We had the geologist building it. So this year that will be a lot different. We've got the people in advance. But what we're going to do this year is we're going to drill a large component will be diamond drilling. We haven't set the final amount yet. Got to be careful committing to anything, but I would hope to do something in the order of 7,500 meters diamond drilling, and then around 2,500 meters of track mounted rab drilling. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to test a lot of these other areas that aren't necessarily lower quality targets, such as day trip, such as our Langara zone, such as our standard zone. We're going to test them all with the track mounted rab drill, partly because we're in the mountains. It takes a fair bit of work to set up a drill pad for diamond drilling. You need to get water there, set up pumps. With this drill, you just put it there and let it rip. Don't even need to build a drill pad at day trip. So we're going to start about a month in advance of diamond drilling with this. And I like to think of it as sending in the paratroopers or the infantry, send it out to all these different spots. And then if we hit, which I hope we will on at least a few of these, we'll follow it up with the artillery or the cavalry with the diamond drill. That gives us a lot more structural information. Yeah,
got it. Just going back to Cloud Drifter and your discovery last year, you described it as a discovery. You call it, it's a great result for first pass drilling, no doubt about it. But you feel in your bones that it's a discovery, but the market's probably going to want to see multiple sections and kind of multiple holes, kind of putting some flesh on the bones. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
What kind of step outs are you looking at? Are you 50-meter step outs, or 20 or 100?
Probably in the 25 to 50 meter range. That's still being resolved. We're working with some consultants right now. And, we haven't got all our data back. We've just started to. So over the next couple months, we'll be refining that and tweaking it. But there'll be more in the 25 to 50 meter range around the existing areas, and then sticking in the more 50, maybe to 75 outside of there, testing the remainder of the trend. There's a lot of excellent targets that still haven't been drilled in that area. And then the Langara zone to the east, we didn't get to drilling it last year. That's a really impressive target that we've got an excellent geological story for it. Also the strong geochemistry, and then several significant adits from the 1930s that have not been followed up on yet.
Can you pull up a map? I'm getting I'm swimming a bit. I'm losing my orientation. And were all 14 holes put into Cloud-Drifter?
Yes. So that's the big key here, which is why I'm so excited, is that we focused on a really small portion of the Cloud-Drifter trend, and the Cloud-Drifter zone is this blob on the left, and then you get standard and essential and waterfall. Essential and waterfall we found in 2020. Standard was the site of a historic adit and a nice backpack drill intercept. Langara zone further east is separated by a valley and some glacial till, and this zone has historic adits, and we've got a really nice geological story for it. So this year you're going to see drill holes across this area, not just focused in this small area that was about 10% of the anomaly.
So, and just is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I can see 6 pads there, so that's 12 drill holes.
This is all 14 holes here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh,
a couple of them are
okay, so got it. Yeah, I can see.
So the area we tested was, so this anomaly is one thing to keep in mind is there's a lot of cover in areas here. This is all talus right below these really nice zones of mineralization. So there's no reason to think that it would peter out. This area over here is on the western part of the Cloud-Drifter zone is a massive Gossan that we didn't get into drilling last year, but it has a lot of mineralization within it, and then also coming out of it in rocks and in soils. Everything, all the soils draining it are over 1 gram per ton. So one thing to consider is a 3 by 2 kilometer area, but there's also the 3D component. So our drilling in last summer tested, we hit gold mineralization over about 550 meters of vertical extent. So that's why I think this is a discovery. We've hit high grade mineralization, but we've also hit widespread low grade mineralization across this a really big area. Big volume of rock is mineralized. And if you extrapolate that across this trend, that's a big gold system driving that. The volumetric amount here is really significant when you add the vertical component in.
Can I just ask, can you show with your mouse where the I can't see from this where the slopes are and where the dips are. I mean, can you kind of give me some crests?
So this is sloping down this way. This is sloping down this way.
Yeah.
This is sloping down this way. This is sloping down this way.
Okay.
And mineralization is actually dipping into the mountain fairly flat. 20, 30 degrees kind of thing. We do get vertical structures as well, which appear to be the higher grade structures, and lower grade mineralization appears flatter. So you're getting a wide variety. But this from here to the bottom of these holes is 550 meters vertical extent.
And just looking at the scale bar, it's about 500 meters width, in plan view as well, maybe even a bit more between the two lines you've just drawn.
Yeah.
Okay. And relatively shallow dipping into towards the south.
Yes.
And what were you drilling through? And so were you drilling through these Hornfels sediments? And are the sediments, are the sediments dipping in the same direction as the mineralization, or is the mineralization in a structure, cross-cutting structure or set of veins? I'm just trying to get my head around it.
Yeah, so the sediments are just there. That's what the intrusions have come into. And the intrusions have come into the sediments in the form of sills, fairly flat angle. So if this is the mountain slope, they've come in like this, and we were drilling holes through them to hit the contacts on either side of the intrusion, that's where you're getting the bulk mineralization, is on the edges of the intrusions, going into the intrusion, but then also coming out, because the Hornfels area on the outside of the intrusion, and then the baked area, there's a lot of silicification on the edges. It's just the contrast between the two different types of rock, or the rheology, it's a great location to move fluids.
And these sills, are these quartz feldspar kind of?
So we've got a diorite higher up. There's different geology within them. The higher one, which we focus the majority of our drilling on, is more mafic, a pyroxene diorite. We thought that the mafic content would be a good location to precipitate gold. It often is. But the lower intrusion is more felsic, more quartz rich. It's a quartz diorite, and that actually turns out to be a better location to put mineralization in, because it breaks so well. It just fractures, and easy to fill it with veining. Okay.
So that, in addition to the alteration around the edge of it, you've got the fractures within it.
Exactly, and I've got a good thing to show you here.
Does the Hornfels fracture? Do the sediments fracture?
They do, but not to the same extent of the intrusion. So this is what we had on display at Roundup here. We had all these rocks sitting on a table as well. But what you can see here, these top ones here, which I'm going to zoom in on, these intrusions, this one here, which would sit here, see, that's about 500 meters east of the similarly mineralized breccia we hit. This one here, these are all undrilled quartz diorites with really impressive mineralization. The reason why that style of mineralization is impressive is it's not a discrete vein. It's the rock has just been blasted, and when you look at something like that as a geo, you see, okay, there's actually bulk tonnage potential there. It looks like that rock looks like ore to me. It's just so stuffed with sulfide and incredibly mineralized, and the gold content is higher than I would have expected for those rocks. So that's what we're excited about. We're seeing that in the lower quartz diorite, which is these intrusions down here, lower down.
Yep.
That we only got a few holes into, but our hit rate so far is pretty damn good. And this hole here would look like we just got into it, but remember that these intrusions are dipping to the south. So at depth, where the drill hole would actually be, that's a surface expression of what it would actually look like. The hole doesn't actually sit like that in 3D. So it would hit these intrusions further up the hole, and that's exactly where we have the nice breccia hit. We got the 9 meters of 6.88 grams, but then we also had the nice zone on the two holes here where we had up to 73.4 grams in here. So we're just getting the first glimpse of it, but on strike, we're seeing a lot of mineralization to the east in the same host rocks, and then to the west, we don't see a lot of rock. It's a lot of cover in there. Geology was inferred from geophysics, but the geochemistry is really strong over there. So the majority of drilling will be focused down the hill this year. Okay, so that's and then can you just zoom out again on that map? I mean, I like the map. So you say you're going to put some. So between the words cloud drifter zone and that little square green symbol, blue symbol for C, that's the lower zone. You're going to be targeting that with some drill holes. So that area there. Good. That's going to be the majority of what we're targeting this year. Yeah. We've got some pending results from higher up. That we'll probably want to follow up on as well. There will be a bit of drilling higher up. Sorry. Did they come out later because you like the core more of the holes 12 to 14, and so you put those through first? No, we got the only hole we prioritized throughout the program was hole 7, which had that initial result.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I said, okay, put that priority. Everything else, we didn't even bother because it was such a mess dealing with the lab this year. I said, well,
Yeah. Just get them all in.
They gave us holes out of order. We were getting a lot of half holes. We were having a lot of QA/QC issues where you put standards in regularly in your sample sequence to make sure the lab is accurate. And we were frequently getting our standards reporting at half of what they should have been. So our gold values were coming back at half of what they should have been. So we had to rerun samples, which delayed everything. Pretty frustrating times.
Oh, tell me about it. I mean, I've been dealing with lab issues as well. We've had to jump labs, but okay. So you're going to be putting some diamond holes into there, and you're going to, where else? You're going to probably some diamond holes into the Langara zone and round standard. Is that going to be diamond, or are you going to go in with the track mounted first?
So we're going to start at standard and at Langara with the track mounted.
Okay.
I would hope to move the diamond drill there as well, but we're starting there early season before we even start with the diamond drilling. So we're going to hit those first. Same with the day trip zone that we already talked about down here. So those will all get hit early season. And then ideally we'll be diamond drilling them a bit later in the summer, but we'll already have results to follow up on, because one advantage of this project is the earlier start date means you get your samples into the lab before it gets stuck with all the golden triangle samples, because they don't start drilling till end of June, early July. So turnarounds are generally pretty quick at the beginning of the season. And then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, you went from 30 days to 150 days.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this map, or?
No, I think I'm done on the map. Good. I'm beginning to get a feel for it. What was the reception at Roundup? No, what kind of footfall did you get on your stand?
A lot of traffic. I've worked in BC my whole career, so we're pretty well connected. Our team is through the exploration industry here, and a lot of people, highly respected geos, were coming by the booth. Everybody wanted to see the rocks because we're in a brand new area. It's nobody's explored there before, beyond just prospecting. So people were excited. People really thought that breccia looked beautiful, as well as some of the other samples that are coming out soon. And they like seeing these rocks around here because it's pretty clear that we've got, when you get the mineralization you just saw on that previous map, those kind of rocks over a broad area. Hasn't been drilled before. It's pretty impressive mineralization, and a key message that I think people appreciated at Roundup is that we've just started testing this. We haven't written this target off to any degree. It's just beginning and quite encouraging. And some people had some interesting comments on the geology. One really strong structural geologist was noting that it actually had some glimpses of SNP, which is structural, but also has a intrusion related component. SNP's a project that Skeena has optioned to Hochschild in the Golden Triangle. So there might be an intrusion related component because we're seeing a lot of copper grades and seeing pretty strong geochemical signatures that have that kind of flavor. It's got that hybrid look to it. So
nice.
Yeah, people were encouraged. Yeah.
When you say people like the breccia, you're talking about the breccia from Day Trip. The breccia we hit in hole 7, the 6.88 grams over 9 meters. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you had a bit of core. You had a bit of core from the downhole from that bottom quartz diorite.
Indeed, do I have it? Here we go. Let me just show you what it looks like. So this is the intercept here. You can see it's pretty sexy looking core. You can see these clasts that have been rebrecciated that were already mineralized.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of, there's a lot of sulfide. You can see a lot of pyrite, chalcopyrite, but then you're getting later arsenopyrite veins. So it's multi-phase, which we like. It means it's longer lived, which has, it's just the hallmark of a stronger system. Pretty nice looking rock. I've got another one I'll bring up here too. So this is another sample that is going to be coming out very soon. And this is an example of the sandstone hosted mineralization. So this is pretty much right at surface. This interval here started at, around 10 meters from surface. And you can see it's quite juiced full of arsenopyrite in here.
Yeah.
And with a nice big pyrite vein here as well. It's just crumbled.
What's this reflective mineral on the bottom left in the sample B? Is that is that
predominantly arsenopyrite?
Arseno. Okay. Nice. Wow, that's really fractured and it's pumped rock, isn't it? My goodness.
Exactly. Yeah. And
multiple generations. Yeah, right at the surface. Good. Well,
the big thing is we got a big target here. When you have a really, really big target, sometimes it's hard to know where to go at the beginning, and you have to focus in one area to try to understand it. But we're getting, all these structures we hit, these nice intercepts. They're on different structures. We didn't put a bunch of holes into one structure. We hit multiple different ones. So now we get to go and follow up on multiple different ones, plus all these other areas we haven't drilled yet. So I was just in a conference this weekend, had 18 meetings on Saturday. And I was telling everybody, one of the things I really like about this is there's a lot of shots on goal. There's a lot of lotto tickets you get right now going to this field season. We're not testing one structure, we're testing many.
Great. Well, good luck with it all. And just in terms of the news flow between now and when you start your field season in May, you've got 7 more holes to come, and then presumably a reinterpretation and an announcement of your summer plans. Is there anything else in there that's going to come out that I haven't mentioned?
Yes. So there's still more surface sampling, a bit of backpack drilling from Goldrange. And then at our Thibert property, we completed a detailed, I forget the exact amount of over 100, probably 130 stream sediment samples, as well as airborne magnetics framework, background framework for us. And then at Ecstall, we'll have some permitting news on that, as well as we completed some more soil sampling at our horsefly and shiner targets. And then we also completed gravity surveys on those too. So fair bit of news to come. Our goal with Ecstall was to get it on a silver platter, ready to be drilled, to be drill ready, and with a permit it will be. So fair bit of news still.
And you're happy with the integrity of the gravity data? Was that successful?
I can't go into too much on it, but it appears to have worked. I think the next step is drilling there.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, I look forward to that. I do like a gravity survey that works well on a VMS target, because they stand out. Yeah, with VMSs, if you have alteration, it's because unless you're in the VMS lens, you need to really be looking at alteration, because your geochemistry can dip off pretty quickly. But alteration is a very powerful tool with VMS deposits. So that, an EM conductor, maybe a magnetic anomaly, but that varies, and then a gravity anomaly. And next step, drill it. There's nothing left to do. Yeah. Good. Now, I think probably the elephant in the room for all these things is always funding. So presumably you're not funded for the full summer season, but you'll have to do something kind of along the way.
Yes, we likely will at some point. So we've got $4.5 million in the bank. So we'll likely want to do a top up with a charity raise or a flow through raise, but we don't have our back up against the wall. We can get going here, and we can be opportunistic and wait for gold to spike up or to get some initial results out. So we'll play by ear, but feeling pretty comfortable.
Yeah, great. Or maybe both, good results and a high gold price. Yeah. Good. Well, Dustin, thank you so much. I really understand the company much better now than I did at the beginning of the call, which is, I guess, the point. Hopefully that'll translate it through to the viewers as well. And good luck with the year's program, and look forward to hearing from you later in the year.
Great. Sounds good. And to any viewers, always reach out. Happy to take meetings whenever you want.